Hello, I'm Chris Wakling. I am the co-author of Cloudburst with Wilbur Smith, and it's great to be here today to have the opportunity to talk to you a little bit about the book, to introduce it to you, and to answer some of your great questions about it and about the process of writing it.
From the master of adventure, Wilbur Smith, comes an epic new series. Join Jack and his friends as they race deep into the jungle and try to unravel the mysterious disappearance of his parents. Can they prove who is behind it and leave the jungle alive? Join the adventure. Out now.
So this is Cloudburst. It's an adventure story about 14-year-old Jack Courtney, who is in the Democratic Republic of Congo with his parents and a couple of friends. His parents are abducted, and he and his friends have to find and save them. The themes of the book. Well, it's really about environmentalism on one level. That's what the family are there in the DRC for, to work at protecting the rainforest from illegal mining, and obviously all the animals that live in the rainforest. But it's about loyalty. It's about loyalty to family. It's about loyalty among friends. And it's an adventure story in which the central characters are tested. So it's about not giving up. It's about being able to put yourself in peril for others and sticking at it. For as long as I can remember, I've always enjoyed writing. I started out writing diaries, actually, when I was very young. And the first one that I completed, that was a whole year long, I think I was about 10 or 11. And it records faithfully everything that I ate. But I soon got into writing stories as well. And I really enjoyed reading. The two things definitely go hand in hand. And then I had a number of different jobs immediately after university. I worked on a farm driving tractors, and I did a lot of painting and decorating, and then I worked writing articles for newspapers, and then I turned into a lawyer somehow. And all the time I was doing those different things, I was writing away in notebooks, scribbling stories down, and getting more and more serious about it. And I think I knew I really wanted to belong in the writing world entirely. So I wrote my first novel and was lucky enough to get it published. And since then, I've carried on doing that. And then this great project with Wilbur Smith came along. I'm lucky enough to have a room in my house, which is my study. And if I shut the door to it, I'm supposed to be undisturbable. I am not. My kids come in, and they may come in through that door as we're filming this, but I do think it's important to be able to write anywhere. Writers who fetishize where they write, I think you hamstring yourself with that. So I have written novels in libraries. I use other rooms in the house as well. Sometimes I go out and work in a cafe, but by and large, I'm lucky enough to have this room with my things in it and a quiet place to sit down and work. I enjoy cycling. I enjoy mountain biking specifically, and I'm lucky enough to have great trails that I can cycle to close by. I've also got, I have a dog, and I have to walk him, and sometimes he comes out mountain biking too. One of the things about mountain biking is that it is a little bit dangerous. It does involve jeopardy, and I enjoy it for that reason, funnily enough. You go out and get a little buzz, but that's not always to say that it goes well. And I have, over the years, picked up my fair share of injuries. I've broken my elbow and ripped up my shoulder and broken both thumbs over the years. But I'm learning to be more careful as I get older. I suppose if I had to pick one from when I was a boy, it would be the book by Richard Adams called Watership Down, which is all about rabbits going on a an adventure to try and find a new home. So this is the copy that I read when I was a boy. And I read it, and then I read it again. And I very rarely do that. I started at the beginning, read it all the way through, and then just carried on and read it again. And this particular copy means a lot to me because both my children have read this same book. And I was given this book by my dad. He bought it, read it, and gave it to me. I read it. So 3 generations of my family have read that copy of Watership Down.
This is my little sister Eva, and my question for you is, how do you get your inspiration for a story? And also, when you get inspiration, how do you know if it's good enough for the story? Thanks, bye.
That's a great question, Ewan, and hi Eva too. That's a really probing question. How do you get your inspiration? Well, there's the thing about writing. People often think that, if you have a long bath or go for a long walk, inspiration will shoot down out of the sky into your head, and that'll be that. But the rather boring truth of it is that inspiration generally comes when you sit down and try and have an idea. So I find if I sit down and I think, what can I write about? There are lots of different places I might go to consider where a story might start. So I might think about my own personal experiences or the experiences of people close to me. If anything remarkable has happened or interesting has happened. I might think about the news and what's going on in the newspapers. I might think about what's gone on in the news in the past, so history, the historical events that I'm interested in. I might think about a big what if this would happen in the future, and consider an alternate world in the future. Or I might start with a place that I find interesting. I think, what could go on there? Or I might start with an object, a thing, a hammer. What story might I build out of that hammer? Who knows? There's a quotation that I like to bring to mind from a very famous American writer called William Faulkner. He was asked whether he had to be inspired to write, and he said, "Of course I do. And every morning at 9 o'clock, I sit down at my desk and I inspire myself." And that, I thought, well, that's good, because it means you can do it. You don't have to wait for it to happen. You've got to make it happen yourself. So when you've come up with an idea, often, speaking personally, you think, wow, what a good idea. That's wonderful. And charge into it and start writing and feeling very pleased with yourself. But then you inevitably get to a point where you think, is this idea actually rubbish? Has it got legs? Why am I writing about this at all? Where did this idea come from? And you wouldn't be human if you didn't have that feeling. But my advice is to trust yourself. You came up with the idea, you decided to write about it because something about it interested you, and push on through to the end and see whether you can get to the end and then judge it.
Hi Chris, I'm Merlin, I'm 16, and my question is, do you start with the characters or the story?
Hi Merlin, that's a great question, and I'm going to try and answer it super honestly, because it's tricky. Where do I begin? Where did we begin, Wilbur and I, with this book? Is that the truthful answer is it's a combination of both. That may not be what you want to hear, but often with stories, I start with the sense of what if. So with this book, if you think about it, what if a young, capable, headstrong, and determined character, Jack Courtney, faced a situation where his parents were abducted in perhaps one of the most hostile countries on earth. What would he do? And the story then flows from that. You have to work out, well, how does he get in that position? How do they get in that position in the first place? What steps does the character take in order to resolve the problem, resolve that big what if?
Hi, I'm Anurag Dastada and I'm from Year 6. Could you please tell me how I can attract my readers' attention at the start of a story that I'm writing?
Hi there, Anurag. That's a killer question, because the opening is so important. The opening of a story is the thing that it lives or dies by, really. There are so many books out there are so many stories out there, you really have to grab the reader pretty quickly. So I've got some concrete tips for you on how to do that. You need to make stuff happen in the beginning. Don't have a big run-up, don't describe the weather, don't have a character looking out of the window thinking about the beginnings of stories, or thinking about the weather, or thinking about how to begin while looking at the weather. Have characters do stuff very, very quickly, and see whether you can get some questions going quickly. The biggest question of all is a dead body at the beginning of a crime novel. They're just a big question mark. How did it get there? And who's to blame? And I've written crime novels myself, and I've had an editor simply suggest to me, do you think you could pull the body from page 9 to page 1 or 2? Because a body, the sooner you get that question mark in there, the better. Other things you can do include putting your character in some sort of difficult situation. It doesn't have to be a ticking bomb about to explode, but even they've just got a little problem, and they're late to get somewhere. A reader will want to find out whether they do in fact get there. So questions and problems or jeopardy, characters doing things. We want to know who the story is about. So naming the character, and if it's important, because for example it's a historical story, we want to know when the story is set, and also where it's set. So just basic things. And a good exercise you can do is simply to get out a piece of paper and write 10 first lines. You don't even need to know what kind of a story you might be about to write, but if you simply write 10 first lines where you try and get a character doing something with a question and a problem, and then see which of those 10 you think is the best first line, and carry on with it, write the next line, and build it from there. So how do you keep the reader's attention once you've got it? Well, you think at the end of every page, what is the reason for the reader to read on? What are they wanting to find out? What questions have you set up that you've not yet provided answers to? And I do a lot of work helping other people write stories. Often a problem that I see is that people set up questions or difficulties for the characters. They set up these brilliant questions or problems, and then they answer them on the next page. And that can be a bit of a mistake, because an unanswered question can power a story for many pages and chapters. There are many other reasons for reading on, because they just love the world that they're in, they love the characters that they're with, they love the sensibility of the book, the head that they're in, and you have to try and achieve all that too. But at a more basic level, these tools of suspense and mystery are very, very useful for powering a story. And if you wander off and you just end up describing things beautifully, and you've forgotten about questions and answers, then the reader might lose interest.
Hi Chris, I'm B and I'm Sophia, and we love the book Cloudburst. I was wondering, did you get a chance to go to Africa before you wrote the book to do all your research?
I'm very fortunate in that, as well as doing novel writing, as well as writing fiction, I write travel journalism, and over the years I've gone to lots of amazing places, and I've often used those locations in stories. And I have been fortunate enough to travel in Africa, but I'd never been to the Democratic Republic of Congo itself. Been to many other countries in Africa, but not the country in question. And I would dearly have loved to go, but the truth of the matter is that part of the reason we set the book in this country is because it's a difficult and dramatic country at the moment. In particular, there's lots of conflict there, And I investigated going to the bit of the Democratic Republic of Congo where the story takes place, and was advised against it by the Foreign Office and by the travel editor at the newspaper I worked for. So I was unable to go to the DRC itself, and I therefore had to rely upon other kinds of research rather than the best kind, which is being there. I read up a huge amount on the country, and there's lots of amazing footage, and wildlife footage in particular, shot there, which I was able to watch and study. But it's always best, if you can, to go and witness something firsthand.
Also, I wanted to know if there was going to be a sequel of Cloudburst, because I really enjoyed the book. Thank you. Bye.
That's a very good question, and I'm pleased to be able to say yes. We've already written it. It's a book called Thunderbolt, and it will be coming out in the not too distant future. And it features the same cast of characters, Jack and Amelia and Xander. Only this time they get embroiled with pirates off the coast of Somalia, and end up coming face to face with child soldiers in that country. And it's a very different kind of adventure, but I hope that you enjoy that one when it comes out too.
Hello, my name is Philip Matilla. I enjoy reading and writing, and I enjoy writing about crime the most. Do you have the whole story already laid out in your head, or do you make it up as you go along?
Hi Philip, thank you very much for your question. It's interesting that you're interested in crime writing. That's a great genre. Lots and lots of people like reading crime fiction, so it's a good one to pursue. Do I know the end when I begin? Do I have the whole structure in place? The answer has been different with different books. I generally know the beginning when I start. I know what the situation is. I know who the characters are, roughly at least, certainly who the main characters are. And I know kind of the setup for the story. And then quite quickly, sort of in the planning stage, I identify what the ending is, or at least there might be a couple of likely endings. So you set up the beginning, and the ending presents itself as a choice. So I try and stay a bit flexible so that I can respond to those good ideas and include them. If you plan it out really to the last dot before you begin, then the writing of it becomes a little bit like doing one of those painting by numbers pictures, which is a bit mechanical. It's nice to be able to go with the flow of a story as you're writing it, but I think it adds a degree of doability if you know you're writing towards a particular ending. And having worked with lots of writers over the years, those people who've got a bit of a sense of where it's going to end do seem to get to the ending far more reliably than those people who are just seeing what the next page might be as they go.
How do you deal with writing after long periods of time away from it?
That's a great question, because it does happen. You might have to go and do something else, and you can't write for a bit. My strong suggestion would be try not to let that happen. Try and keep it going, even if it's just a little bit, just a few lines a day, because that keeps the story alive in your head. The thing that I would do to get back into it is first of all, read loads, because reading makes you think, oh, this is good, I'd like to do something like this. It certainly makes me feel that. So reading is like the petrol poured into the tank that makes the engine go for me. So fill the tank up with petrol by reading, and then splurge, by which I mean sit down and write fast any old nonsense. Don't require it to be brilliant. Just have a bit of fun, have a bit of splurgy fun. Imagine you just opened up a new page in a sketchbook and you were just scribbling almost a very rapid picture. That's a good way to get back into it. So read and splurge as a way of getting back in, but try not to allow those absences to build up.
Hello, I'm Henrietta Pant. I'm 15, and I was wondering, what do you do when you just can't get started on a piece of writing? Thank you.
Hemlat, that's a good question. You know, it happens to us all. You want to do something, you want to write something, but you just can't begin. You know, the blank page sits there, it stares you down, it defies you to make a start. The first thing to recognise is that you're not alone in thinking that. It could be a lack of confidence in the moment that makes it happen, or for any number of reasons you might feel that, and every writer that I've ever talked to has had moments like that. So first thing, you're not alone. The second thing is, if you wait around hoping that something's going to make you write, you can wait an awful long time. You do have to step up, as it sounds from your question like you're wanting to do. You know, you have to take control and think, well, I'm going to make myself write. I'm going to make myself write. And how do you do that? Well, get away from the computer, possibly, because the computer has that little cursor, and that can go backwards as easily, well, more easily than it can go forwards. You write something and you press delete, it unwrites it for you. Whereas if you write with a pencil or pen on a bit of paper, obviously you can scrub it out, but by and large you generally write in a line, and writing is linear. Ultimately, reading is linear. You read from the beginning to the end. So by making yourself write in a line, you might find that frees you up to build something. And other little tips, just you can say, well, I'm going to write now. I'm going to write for 2 minutes without stopping. My pen is not going to stop. I'm going to, even if I write blah, 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 this is rubbish, 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 I'm going to write for 2 minutes. And weirdly, you might write blah, 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 this is rubbish, there's a dog outside barking, the barking sounds like somebody dropping a dustbin lid. Something might come out, who knows, that you could then use, just simply because you forced yourself to write something and you didn't mind that it was going to be, 9/10 of it might be rubbish. Thank you for your interest in our book, Cloudburst. Very much hope that you enjoyed it and that you enjoy the other books in the series. You're all obviously keen writers yourselves, I can tell from the questions that you're asking. So I suppose I'd like to leave you just with a bit of encouragement. If you're writing now and thinking about it in the way that you are, sure, you're going to make brilliant writers as you grow up and get better and better and better at it. And I'd just like to encourage you to keep practicing, have a bit of faith in yourselves, and write good stuff.